Thought processes are not what a lot of people think. They may think that when they're speaking to themselves in their own words, in their internal dialogue, that they're thinking, and that that is thought, and that that's the entirety of the process of thought. They may assume that they have a subconscious that's thinking also, and of course, that would be an additional vantage point from which to understand the dynamics of thought. We would suggest that thought emerges reactively in many people's systems, most people's systems, based upon their relationships, their experiences of moment to moment life, their contemplations of what they want or what they fear or what they love or what they feel they need. And we would suggest that thought in and of itself is a necessary set of training wheels for human beings as a species. And it's very useful until we transcend it as a process of arriving at decisions, arriving at understandings, arriving at learning, arriving at perspectives that are wholesome and functional and constructive in the world. We would suggest that a lot of thought processes are just repetitive, recycled thoughts or anxieties or fears of thinking, in essence, the same internal dialogues or narratives repeatedly over and over and over again. I'm not good enough. Nobody loves me. I'm not what I should be. I'll never have the life that I want to have. I'll never become what I want to become. I'm afraid of what's going to happen in the future. How can I fix all of the problems that I'm experiencing? Why me? How many internal dialogue narratives might people either not register or register consciously, at least in their minds, if we could call their process of mind consciousness, which we're not, or in their emotions, repetitive feelings? Are those not a sort of thought that occurs over and over again? We would suggest that all the recordings that we create in our systems that we would refer to as either memories or our best interpretations of our prior experiences and all the conclusions we've drawn from those experiences that build up layer upon layer upon layer within our systems like the rings of a tree. We would suggest that those referential points that we would refer to as simulacra also, which are just our basic attempt to map the experiential territory of life and to internalize that map and utilize that map kind of like a GPS system for decision making, learning, behaviors, and action taking in the world. We would suggest that that map of simulacra within our systems generates a constant thought process, a reflective, repetitive thought process that is not consciousness. It's not full presence of consciousness in the present moment. And we would suggest that it is an amalgam of those recordings that constitutes what we call our ego and our ego identity and our personality and our models of relating to one another as individuals and as groups and in our monogamous relationships or families. So all the thought processes that flow through the system associated with all of these different dimensions of life process, we would suggest ultimately become redundant and not optimal or necessary to be operated from. One addition to the process of thought we would suggest is that people, whether they know it or not, are hooked into what we would refer to as the consensus consciousness of the tribe or of the nation or of their organization or their family or of the totality of the human species, and that those energies are constantly flowing through our systems like water through the gills of a fish, and that we reflect upon those and are triggered by that flow of ongoing dialogue, semanticized energy, meaning energy that flows through us in the form of words that we then translate into thought and interpretations, decisions and perspectives and ways of relating. All our thoughts are informed by all of those flowing dynamics. And again, transcendence of thought as into full consciousness, which is beyond the traditional fundamentals of simple thinking in words, thinking our way through a problem, thinking up solutions. or thinking what we're going to have for dinner tomorrow, or what we're going to say to our friends or our spouses or our children. Those forms of thinking are necessary in this present moment, and collectively we are evolving out of them and will continue to evolve out of them. And how we get there together optimally is kind of up to us. It can be a very graceful and elegant and sophisticated process, or we can hold on to beliefs which are often the basis of a lot of people's thinking and decision making and behaviors, and we can bash our heads together based upon our discontinuities of belief or values or approaches or experiential history or habits, which are all formative of these and participant in this process of what we call thought. And if we do that, then there'll be a lot more friction, a lot more stress, a lot more pain and suffering, a lot less collaboration, a lot less potential for optimized, high frequency, God aligned and loving, unconditionally loving, conscious collaboration. There'll be a lot less potential for that if we are caught up in this dynamic of constant churning of thought, in which for some people is a constant chatter within themselves that they feel they can't escape, and they don't feel there is actually a way to escape from, and they assume they must escape, and they try to escape, and while they're busy trying to escape from their thoughts continue chattering. So there are many ways through meditation, etc., to still the mind, to calm the system, to resolve these conflicted internal dialogues that are the conversations between the fragmented subconscious elements of our systems that are as of yet not integrated and aligned and harmonized and purified and raised to higher understanding. They're necessary. They're not problems. They're process. We can't do without them in the present moment as a species. And somehow together we must find a way to transcend those prior dynamics of thought, which are in a way movable prisons, just as fixed beliefs or limiting values or limiting habits are movable prisons from which we have a difficult time extricating ourselves and moving into conscious, loving, collaborative, concerted effort, and thus optimize positive results.